Welcome to the final video in this special 4-part video series where I found and wholesaled a house virtually in Maryland that I never actually saw in person. Now, if you've been watching this series, you know that I ran into some issues here, but we are finally at the finish line and it looks like my net profit on this deal is about $20,000. Not bad for never having seen the house. So on this part 4 video, I'm gonna break down the numbers for you and specifically how I closed the deal virtually. All of that and more coming up.
This video is brought to you by Flipster, the nation's #1 real estate software, with tools for finding, funding, and flipping houses. Check it out now at getflipster.com.
If you're new here to this channel, I'm Jerry Norton with flippingmastery.com, and this channel is all about ways to help you make money wholesaling and flipping real estate so you can live your dream life. Be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications so you don't miss new videos. I hope you've enjoyed this video series where you've been able to look over my shoulder and watch me virtually wholesale this house step by step in the remote town in Northeast Maryland. Now, the best part isn't that I made $20,000 wholesaling this deal. The best part is I did it right here from my home office in Arizona without ever actually seeing the house in person. Now, I found the deal virtually, I found the cash buyer virtually, and I closed on the transaction virtually. So if you think that's brilliant, leave a comment and say, Jerry, you are a flipping genius. That's why I love this business so much. And the reason why I did this video series is to show you exactly how I did it so that you can do it too. So if you want to learn how to wholesale and flip houses in any market you want, from anywhere you want, then be sure to get my virtual flipper kit, which shows you step by step how to do your first virtual wholesale deal. I'll give this to you for free. Just go to virtualflipperkit.com to download it now. And if you missed the other 3 videos in this series, be sure to go back and watch them. I created a playlist and I'll put the link to that in the description below for you. As a real quick summary, we found this off-market lead with a private seller and executed a contract to buy the home for $98,000, and then found a cash buyer who wanted the deal for $120,000. But rather than do a single closing assignment, I opted to do a double closing, which ended up being a big mistake because the title company decided not to do the second closing. So we left off where I had to find a new title company to close the second transaction with my cash buyer. And unfortunately, it took a few weeks to get updated title and for the new title company to be ready to close. But finally, we're ready to close. I just received the closing statement and did a final accounting on the deal. So if you look here at my closing statement when I purchased it, including all of the closing fees, I paid $100,478. And then taking a look at the closing statement on the resale, even though the sale price was $120,000, I got back money from prorated taxes that I paid on the purchase. So my net proceeds at closing came to $120,561. Which means if I subtract my sales proceeds from my total cost I paid to buy it, my net profit on this deal comes to $20,085.07. And when I say that I wholesaled this house virtually, I mean virtually, even the closing. Here's how it works. On the purchase, once I had an executed contract, I opened escrow with a local title company. What that means is I emailed them a copy of the contract and then wired my $1,500 earnest money for title to hold in escrow. That $1,500 earnest money is held by title until closing and then is applied to the purchase price. If you assign your contract, the earnest money is reimbursed at closing. Once title opens escrow, they do a title search to make sure title is clear and there aren't any liens, such as a mortgage, that will need paid off at closing from the seller's proceeds. On this deal, the seller inherited the property from his father, so there was no mortgage or any other liens. Title will prepare all of the paperwork and do a transfer of ownership and then schedule a closing. Here's how I handled the closing since I'm in Arizona and the closing company is in Maryland. Since most title companies require original signatures to be signed in front of a notary to do a remote closing, the day before the closing, the title company coordinated a traveling notary to meet me at my house with all of the paperwork to sign and notarize, and then they overnight the docs back to the title company. What's great is they just come to my house so I don't have to go anywhere to sign. Now this usually only costs like $50 or so, and it makes it so easy. Then I wire the funds needed to close. If it's an assignment, it's really easy since you're not signing. Remember, you're not the buyer. In that case, you would provide your wire info to the title company and they would wire you your wholesale fee. On this deal, since I did a double closing, the way it's supposed to work is once you get your cash buyer, you send your executed purchase and sale agreement between you and the cash buyer to the same title company who you opened escrow with, and then the cash buyer either manually gives a check to title for the earnest money or does the same thing I did and wires the earnest money. On my deal, the cash buyer paid a $5,000 non-refundable earnest money, and since my original title company would not do the second closing, I had to open escrow with a new title company by emailing them a copy of my executed contract with my cash buyer, and then my cash buyer wired them the $5,000 earnest money. For the closing on the second transaction with my cash buyer, I did the same thing. I had title coordinate a traveling notary to meet me at my home office to sign and notarize all of the paperwork. Then they overnighted the original docs back to title, and then once it funds, title wires me my proceeds, and that's it. It's a pretty simple process. Now, a few pointers when choosing your title company. Tip number 1, make sure the title company is wholesaler friendly and comfortable doing assignments and double closings. The best way to find a good title company is to ask other wholesalers in the area that do a lot of deals. Trust me, if a wholesaler is doing 5 to 10 or more deals per month, they have a rockstar title company they are using on all of their transactions. Tip number 2, make sure you control which title company is used for the closing. Add a statement in your contract that says, seller agrees to close with buyer's title company of choice. Tip number 3, if possible, choose a title company that has an office close to the seller. Make it easy for the seller since more than likely he is going to physically attend the closing. And finally, tip number 4, use 3 very important addendum forms that will save your bacon. Let me explain them briefly and then tell you how to get them for free. The first addendum is a COVID addendum that provides extensions in the event things get delayed due to COVID. Now, I just did a deal that took 3 weeks to order title instead of the normal 3 days because of COVID delays. Now, the second addendum is my flipping disclosure addendum that is only needed if you're doing a double closing and your spread is more than $15,000. Get the seller to sign it, agreeing that they understand your intent is to flip the property for a profit and that they agree to waive any claims on title. Now, this will make sure you don't run into the same issues I had on your second closing, which I explained in video 3 in this video series. And the third addendum is called an affidavit of memorandum, which prevents the seller or your cash buyer from cutting you out of the deal. All 3 of these addendums are preventative and may just save your butt. It's like they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's always easier to stop something from happening in the first place than to repair the damage after it's happened. And if you want these 3 addendums, I'll give them to you for free. Just leave a comment and say, Jerry, you are a flipping genius. Give me those awesome addendums and I'll give you the download links. Now, if you thought this video series was helpful to see the whole process from beginning to end, I did another series on a different deal where I broke it down step by step, just like this deal. So watch that now, and if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to my channel. With over 550 videos, this is the #1 channel on YouTube for all things wholesaling and flipping, and I'll see you on the next video.